going, everybody? How are you guys doing today? I hope that everybody is fired up because let me tell you something. Today, our guest speaker is none other than Marc Montoya, better known by Coach Montoya from the UFC. He's currently coaching 13 professional fighters in the UFC. By the way, let me see if he's ready because the story of today, guys, some of the points that we're going to talk about, we're going to be talking about discipline. We're going to talk about how to focus, get more energy, and also how to handle fear. And believe it or not, there you go. So we're ready. And 3 other points. Let me see. How's it going? How's everything doing?
Doing great, man. It's great to be on. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Thank you so much for to be with us. Wonderdog, be waiting for you anxiously. We are excited to having you today, and I hope everything is well in Colorado. How's the weather today?
It's great. Actually, it's in the 70s here, which is
Oof.
you never know it. You never know at Denver. It could be. We get 300 plus days of sunshine. People don't realize that. So it's an amazing day today. And like I said, thank you for being patient with me. It's been super busy, but it's a pleasure being on with you.
No, thank you so much again for the opportunity to be here today. And I love that the weather in Denver is great. I saw one of your fighters, Alexander, the other day, one of his videos. It was snowing before he goes to swim. And I say, no, he's not going to swim. He's not going to swim. And he goes, and I'm like, okay.
He's gone.
So, Coach, a little bit about for the people that have been watching this interview later on, probably by next week, we're going to have it uploaded to our YouTube channel. But a little bit for those that you don't know, you nominated for 2018. Correct me, Matt, if I'm wrong. Nominated for 2018 as a Coach of the Year by the World of MMA Awards and winner of the 2012 and 2014. Is that you, huh?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. And also currently owning Factory X, which is is as an MMA coach and also as an owner, accomplished fighter and instructor Marc has been training and fighting, teaching around Denver area for over 20 years. So thank you so much, Coach, for being here with us today. And we're excited to having you. So what's your story? How you get started? Who you grew up with when you were a kid?
So I'm born and raised here in Colorado. I obviously lived here in Denver, and my first, I would say, mixed martial arts experience, we didn't call it that back then, but that's what we'd call it now, was in boxing. I always had a love for boxing. We used to watch boxing on ABC Sports every Saturday morning. That's when it used to be on, when I was a kid. And I was just always intrigued with boxing. I asked my mom if I could box. She said absolutely not. And, I was just like, man, I really want to do this. And so I told my mom I was playing basketball for the school, and I was actually running the railroad tracks about 6-7 miles from my school to a boxing gym. It's called St. Joe's. It was in the basement of this church. They had a boxing club there. And then I'd run back, and for months my mom thought I was playing basketball. Come home with a shiner or a black eye, and I tell her it just happened from someone elbowing me in a rebound or something. And so it was going well. It was going well until my coach came to me and said, "Hey, listen, you're progressing. You're doing a good job. We'd like to get your first boxing match." And he handed me a piece of paper and he said, "Whoever your guardian is needs to sign it and then needs to take you to the venue." I was like, oh man, I didn't think that through. So I didn't really think it through. And then, so I went home and begged for forgiveness. And of course my mom was super pissed, and she's like, "You've been lying to me." And I was like, "I know, I wanted to do it. I've been doing it for months. I've been safe. I'm still walking." She just told me, "Listen, you don't win, you're done." And so I went on and won. And then, now, fast forward, obviously till now, that was my start in mixed
Coach,
martial arts.
let me ask you that. She said, "You don't win, you're done."
Exactly. I was like, no problem, I'll win.
No problem, I'm gonna win. What was your first? If you remember your first fight, that of course I bet you do. What was in your mind when you were walking to the ring? What was you walking?
My first boxing match is the one I'm referring to. Is I didn't know. I was scared and I was anxious and excited, and just I came from a tough neighborhood in Denver, and fighting wasn't abnormal. That was kind of life where I was from. And so the same feelings I would have if I was in a street fight, I had like, just anxious and a little scared and like, okay, you got to get this done. But once it started, it was just, it's like playing any sport. You just get into it and start going.
Got it. What's so who you're with your mom? It's your dad was involved in the picture, not at all.
So my dad was in and out of my life as a kid, and my parents were 16 when they had me. They were super young, so they were kids having a kid, and my parents didn't get along well as a kid, and I actually lived with my grandmother, and my brother and myself were there obviously at the time, and so yeah, he was in and out. As I got older, my dad's a part of my life now, but when I was a younger kid, he was kind of in and out of my life.
Awesome. Who were you, coach? Who were you? And I'm curious about this because when you start practicing basketball, right? But it was boxing. So who were you in high school? You were always the person competitive, but who was Marc Montoya in high school?
It's a good question. I was a good athlete in team sports, and so my parents officially got divorced this summer going into high school, and I lived in the inner city of Denver, and then my dad moved out to the suburbs in a city called Littleton here in Colorado.
Okay.
And my mom and I weren't seeing eye to eye much, and so I went and told my dad, hey, I want to live here, and he was like, nah, you have siblings, you need to go there. But I just didn't take no for an answer, and then that's how we forged some of our relationship. But because I moved, I was so far away from where I was boxing that it wasn't really an option. I didn't have a car. My dad traveled a lot for his work. Obviously, my mom and I weren't getting along much, and so team sports is something I did a lot. And I played football and baseball in high school, and I actually took a break from boxing because of the distance of where I was from. And I was just a regular kid playing team sports, and I was really good at it. I actually played college baseball. I got a scholarship to play college baseball.
Okay.
And I could have played football, but I chose baseball. And as a freshman, I played on the varsity, and I was a 4-year letterman in football and a three-year letterman in baseball. So I was good in team sports, and I think some of my past experiences from where I grew up to the one-on-one sports like boxing, wrestling, those kind of things that I did, I think those really helped me mentally be a good athlete in high school. And obviously I was blessed to go and get a scholarship to play in college. And I don't come from any money, so I don't think I would have went to college if I didn't get that. And so I was able to get my college degree and that whole thing. So that's who I was. I was just a normal kid playing team sports, and I moved to the suburbs from the inner city the summer going into my freshman year, and it was a big culture change. I mean, there was a lot of just not the same. I wasn't used to it. So,
right. How's you mentioned that you don't come from money, and actually one of the things that Underdog was created, Coach, it was because we're focused on the stories of the underdogs. Not just as an underdog mentality, but I believe there is a lot of people out there that they trying to do something for themselves and they're afraid to start doing to take the first step, or just because they see that is the excuse of I don't come from money, I don't come from a wealthy family, I don't come from a prestigious last name, I don't come from a country where everybody's rich or stuff like that. What would you say that it's? What would you say it's that mindset in the beginning that make you think that you will have a chance in life to make it big?
Well, I think you can go one of two ways when you grow up that way. My mom and my grandmother, we were on welfare when I was a kid, and I remember being really young, being embarrassed about that, because back then you didn't have a debit card that you could hide. It looked like Monopoly money,
right?
And so, you would take that into a store, and I saw my mom one day. I was like, I'm not going in that store with that fake money. And I don't know. It's always, and listen, I'm not putting down that system. I'm just saying
Sure.
that's what motivated me, because I was like,
Ooh.
because that system is there for a reason. But it really motivated me to be like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to do this when I'm older. So it can do that to you, or it potentially makes you dependent on that, and you never break the cycle that was given to you. And so you can kind of take two directions there. And so I'm really happy and blessed that I took the former direction, and that's what I did. And I just remember being really young, just telling myself I'm gonna do better than I've got now. And that's something that obviously has taken a long time. I'm 45 years old, so I'm not perfect at all now, but
You're
it's
John. You're John.
but I've changed. We changed the trajectory of my family, my kids, my wife. I've changed that trajectory that potentially could be a repeated pattern. And my kids could be telling the same story I'm telling, but they're not, because I just didn't want that. I didn't want to have that. It was a tough life to live. It wasn't fun. And there's just a lot of drama when your parents are 16, man. It's
You're
not their
trying to figure it
fault.
out with them, right?
They're not adults. And
Sure.
it's a tough start. So I feel blessed that we were able to get through that. But it's just mentality. I think the mentality is, you can feel sorry for yourself, or you can decide, you know what, this isn't what it's going to be. I need to make changes. And I didn't make them instantly. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm a human right now. I still make
Absolutely.
mistakes. But the point is that if your intentions are right, and your goals are right, and hard work and sacrifice and commitment, all those things happen on a daily basis. How you do one thing is how you do
How you
all
do
things. I
everything.
say this
True.
all the time to my team. And so, you wake up, you make your bed. I wake up, I make my bed in the morning, and that's how we start. Like, let's go. It's time to start checking boxes and working like that. And so I think that's my answer to your question.
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate it. You touched really important points. One of the other points that I would like to touch on, how would you say that today in the sports, because you're not just an average athlete, I think that you guys have a pretty decent career now. And my question is, how would you say, coach, are you helping your guys with discipline? How do you know you just said like, hey, I'm helping my guys, I'm coaching my guys, because I'm in the life insurance business, right? Outside of over here in San Antonio, and then coaching a group of guys, sometimes I realize that discipline is something that unfortunately not everybody has, and sometimes it's not that it might be a part of the coach, might be part of the person too. But what you say, how do you transfer that into your guys?
Well, discipline has to come from within. I can give you the roadmap, and I can show you the systems,
Mm.
and I can also, part of the system creates discipline. So I don't want to overshadow
Good.
that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you can be taught. I think you can be taught to have discipline, but you also have to have that internal drive. You have to have that fire, and that's one thing that I've done a good job. Myself and my coaching staff and the team have done a really good job of picking those people that are of the same cloth as us. So it doesn't mean that we're 100% the only way or the right way, because there's a bunch of ways to get things done. But the way and the culture that we have, one of the things that sets us apart, we have 7 things that set us apart, and one of the things is what we call grit. You got to have that toughness. In order to have that toughness, you got to have discipline, because discipline's going to require that when you get beat today, that you're tough enough, you have that grit
Come
to
back.
still be slightly delusional, to come back tomorrow and
Hmm.
say, I'm still the baddest dude on the planet. And
True.
discipline can be taught. We can teach you with systems and how to do all this, but you have to have that. And so that's one of the things I look for when we're taking on athletes, new athletes, whatever, is, do you have that? And so in conversation before we ever train, I sit down with every athlete I work with prior to training with them, and we just go through expectations and have a conversation so that they can see where I'm coming from, I can see where they're coming from. And before we even get on the mat, are we even close? Are we in the same ballpark here, or is this just not going to be the right fit because
Right.
Of whatever reason? So, that discipline has to come from within, but can also be taught. And it's realistically one of the ways to be successful.
Absolutely, and you know what? Great points on that. I think it's very important what you mentioned, and it's not like I always say that work ethic is not duplicatable, and unfortunately, you come with it or you don't. Well, if you would like to hear more about Marc Montoya's story, let me tell you something. You have to go ahead, subscribe, turn on notifications, because next week we're gonna be hearing the second part of this interview. So take care. God bless.